Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Capital to the Coast BNI. My name is Mike Manning. Each week, we bring you a local small business success story from one of our 38 chapters, ranging from the Triangle, which is Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, all the way to New Bern and Jacksonville and points in between. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. And our goal each week as a member is to help our fellow members grow their business by following the BNI motto of Givers Gain. Our local small business success story this week is Nick Dowgul, owner of North State Law. He is in RD '05 Triangle Business Professionals. They meet Thursday mornings at the Triangle Shooting Academy at 8:15, and they have 47 members, currently the biggest chapter in the Triangle region. And Nick holds one of the three lawyer seats. So we'll talk about that as well. Nick, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Mike, and I appreciate you having me today.
Oh, glad to have you on the
Been-
show. Yep, looking forward to it. Nick and I met, what, a month, 4 or 5 weeks ago? Had a
yeah, I
fun
think it was
one to
around there.
one. Our
Yeah,
one
we
to
did.
one was exactly as it should be. We talked a little bit of business and a lot of college football and a lot of young kids. So, that's exactly what a one to one is supposed to do. So,
Yeah.
all right. So, you are one of three lawyers in your
Mhm.
chapter. How do you guys work with each other? Because I know everybody's kind of has their expertise.
Yeah, so with ours, everybody has their own focus. We can't say specialization in law unless you are go through a specialization process. It's like a add-on to your state licensing. So we can't say specialist, but we all have our unique focus areas. So my seat is professional licensing. We have somebody in the estate planning seat, like wills and estates, and then we have somebody else that's for civil litigation, business formations.
Yeah, and Nick's firm focuses on helping North Carolina professionals defend their licenses and certifications. And I know sometimes that happens, right?
Yeah, it does. Some boards probably a little bit more, I would say, active than other ones in regards to the amount of complaints. We also will help people that are trying to acquire a license, and for one reason or another, usually it has to do with like something in the criminal background. They're getting a little friction with getting their license with the board. We can help them, try to acquire the license as well. But that's just a small portion of our practice. Probably 95% of it is on the professional license defense side.
Yeah. Is there a legal DNA that goes through your family tree?
Well, my oldest brother is also an attorney. He's on the criminal defense side, but he and I are the only ones that went the legal route. My dad's an engineer and general contractor. My mom does real estate, and my other brother works with my dad, um, on that stuff. So I will say, out of the four of us, I'm sorry, out of the five of us, can't do math this morning. Only one of us doesn't have to have a professional license to do his job. So,
Yeah, okay.
um, yeah,
And the age difference between you and your brother, who is a lawyer, is what?
almost so a little bit over 10 years.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can I imagine you guys have had some spirited debates over the years about some things that just are probably random?
yeah. Sometimes, not too often. We get along pretty well. So.
Uh, so Joan and John Q. Public usually go through life not needing a lawyer,
Right.
but how do you make sure you know one, have one, can find one when you need something?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's one of those where word of mouth is probably going to be the best, and also with that, even if you do get a recommendation from somebody, it is a good idea to go and do your own research, so that could be a good starting point. Google obviously is a good starting point as well, but if you know anybody in the legal field, even if it's not an attorney but someone that works at a law firm, it's always, it could be a good starting point as well, and then go on Google, double check, make sure they get good reviews, because somebody may refer you to a friend that's an attorney, and they might not be as good as the person might think, you know what I mean? So yeah, that's it. And most of the time when people first interact with an attorney, it's going to be real estate. attorney, like they're buying a house or they're selling a house or something like that.
Are there a couple questions we can ask if we've never met them but found them? Just to, I don't know if it's to ease our mind or anything like that, but what should we know about a lawyer we just met that we're thinking about hiring?
Yeah, good question. I think the probably the most important thing is, not so much years of experience, but years of actually or amount of work that they've actually done. So somebody could say, like, well, I've been practicing law for 8 years. It's like, okay, how much work have you actually done in that specific area of law? Because I've been practicing law since 2008, but I don't really do business law. I've done a little bit over the years on civil litigation. I would not be the person to go to for that. Like real estate closing, never done one, not the person to do that. So when you're talking to an attorney, not only do you kind of need to figure out like, how much experience they have, but like, is that experience that, like in the area of law that you're needing? Because if you're hiring somebody that does real estate closings for a criminal matter, that's not a good idea. So you got to be really careful, and that would be one of the main questions I would ask. Like in this particular area of law, how often do you appear in? Oh, another one would be how often do you appear in whatever county that you're going to? Because that's
Oh,
huge, especially in litigation. I mean, if you're hiring somebody in Buncombe County to do a case in Wake County, they're not going to know the judges. They're not going to go know really opposing counsels, and they're kind of working from behind at least a little bit because knowing the key players in your case, key players being court personnel, other attorneys, judges, that factors in a great deal because you get a certain comfort level there, and then also at least a little bit who you're dealing with, and that goes a long way a lot of time.
that's one of the things I love about this show, man. I learn something every week that takes me off of my script. So if you are actively in court for whatever you're uh, for whatever you're known for, whatever your
Mhm.
specifics are, can't think of the word. Um, how often do you get to see the judges and the people you just mentioned to kind of get a sense of who they are, what they are, and how well you need to know them?
Yeah, so in when I first started practicing law, I was a public defender. So every single week, I was seeing the same people and the same judges, same court staff, like things like that. It honestly it became kind of like Groundhog Day. I would see the same people, same bailiffs, same security people, and it does help. Like, but in my particular area of law now. I do see the same, I interact with some of the same attorneys on a weekly basis. And I always, one thing is always try to maintain the best relationship as possible with opposing counsel, but also, we each have a job to do. We got to represent our clients. And speaking of, the boards, which is their clients or agencies, we're in front of a lot of those board members, and again, it depends on the board, well, like just taking the board of nursing, for example, we're probably in front of at least some of the members of the board on a monthly basis, on average. Some other boards, we might not actually get in front of the board unless there's a hearing or there's some sort of like settlement conference or something along those lines. And my philosophy is like, hey, if we can resolve this to the satisfaction of the client, that's always better than having to go to a hearing, that's more cost, more time, more stress. And if we can alleviate that from our client and they're also happy with the outcome on the resolution, that's typically what the goal is. And that's usually going to be the best result.
And I know your goal is what's best for the client, but do
Absolutely.
you as a lawyer enjoy when it gets to the boards and further on, just do you enjoy that part of the process when you're defending someone and you get to stand up and talk in front of folks, things like that?
Yeah, I do enjoy that. Probably not as much as I used to be pretty honest with you. But and I say that every time, and then I get to have a hearing or a settlement conference, and then I kind of like, okay, I remember why I got back, why I got into this in the first place. And the biggest, I would say, joy in this not only area of law but in this profession is you have a case where it's like, all right, I'm gonna get my butt handed to me. but you do your due diligence, you prepare, you prep, and it ends up coming out your way somehow.
Mm.
And that is such a great feeling. Um, Now, on the opposite end of the spectrum, where you feel like you got a little bit hosed by, an outcome, even though you prepared real well and you had everything lined up and you execute it and it still doesn't go your way. That's also on the other end of the spectrum extremely frustrating. Which that does happen sometimes as well. But those ones where you're like, well, let's take a shot in the dark and see what we can come up with, and it works out your way. That's huge. I love that.
And I don't think we realize how many people we know that have to have a license or some sort of
Oh yeah,
certification to do their job.
yeah. It's there's I probably come across a new one once every 6 months or so, and I've represented people in front of over 30 different licensing boards and state agencies
Wow.
in North Carolina. And yeah, there's always a new one that kind of pops up. There was a new one, and I can't remember the name of the board within the past 2 weeks, even. And then a couple months ago, we got hired to help somebody with the DMV licensing board. That was a new one on me,
Mm.
but it was in regards to getting dealership license because car
Oh.
dealerships need to be licensed apparently. So yeah, we'd have got somebody currently on that particular case as well with that board. So yeah, it's a lot, man. I looked it up one time. It was over at the time, and this is probably about 4 or 5 years ago. It was over 200 different licensing entities in the state of North Carolina.
Wow.
It's a ton. And it's like the reason I got into this area of law is obviously, going back to when I first started practicing law doing criminal defense, I'm used to defending people. And also, like, I'm not a big government guy, like, never have been. And I feel like people should have more freedom to do what they want and make a
Mm.
living, right? I know that sounds silly to some people, but I find that to be extremely important. And that's why we do what we do. And I would say I got a really good staff and everybody's kind of on the same page when it comes to kind of the passion that we bring to defending our clients. Now, I mean, there's going to be some times where we have a client, it's like, yeah, that one's, is a really bad one. And you still got to have to do the best that you can to get a good outcome. And that outcome might still end up not being great for the client. But, at the end of the day, we still have to have proper representation of people and, try our best to rehabilitate people if they did do something, egregious, and just help them in that regard as well. If we can't really argue the merits of the case or the facts of the case, try to show that the person is different than who they were when
Mm.
they, committed the infraction.
Do you get how do you get notified if a new license or certificate or board is created?
Um, honestly, I don't know what to answer to that question. I mean, we do go well. I do keep up with stuff through the North Carolina Bar Association, which is a voluntary bar association. I don't have to be a member. I'm a member of the state bar. That's my mandatory one. But the reason I'm a member of the North Carolina Bar Association is so I can be in like the administrative law section. And if you look at professional licensing defense, administrative law would be the umbrella where professional license defense hangs from. So with that, I do get I get some quality information from them. I haven't gotten anything from them that would indicate any new boards or agencies were implemented, but I had to imagine if there are going to be new ones, I would probably see it from that organization. Also, there is and I do get notifications on this every time that the General Assembly has a committee meeting. It's a joint legislative administrative oversight committee. I get notification that they're having a meeting.
Mm.
So they actually have a meeting today at I believe it was 2:30, and we usually get some decent information from them. Sometimes it's meetings only last like an hour, and they'll have one thing on the agenda. But other times they'll be a little bit longer and we'll get some other information out there as well. But that could be another one where we could
Mm.
probably see if an agency or new board is popping up.
Mm. I There's some seats in BNI, and I believe you have one of them where you've been approached before. Hey, Nick, real quick question.
Yeah,
And you know it's not going to be quick, don't you?
Yeah. No, it never is. But, I don't mind, like, I like my group a lot. I really do, and I've only been a member since, I think, February officially. And, yeah, but I don't mind at all. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
it can
well,
be
I
a
I
good
was actually
conversation.
thinking of, like, kids' birthday parties, little league baseball games, things like
Oh,
that, where
yeah.
they find out you're a lawyer, like, "Hey, before the game starts, I got a quick question for you."
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Those, yeah. And I always had to try to preface it, especially with conflicts,
Yes.
because if somebody asks you a question like that and you're actually representing somebody else that's related to the case, that's potentially getting some deep trouble. So that's one thing that I have to kind of explain to
Mm,
people. Like, hey, I'd love to be able to answer your question, but without knowing
yeah,
like any particulars of like who's involved,
mm,
I wouldn't be able to do a proper conflict of interest check, and that's kind of a good way to get out of that, and also protect myself and the firm from any
yeah.
potential issues with the state bar.
Yeah, you just have one of those seats where there's a few of them that people go,
Yeah,
"Hey, yeah," it's like, "No, I don't have time right now because 'cause I'm" yeah, for a number of reasons, can't answer your question, so,
right, right.
uh, what what was your first thought of starting a law firm, and what was that process like till the day that you actually opened?
Yeah, so I had worked for a small firm and had had a couple of these cases. I think the first nursing board case I had was like 2017, and I had a general contracting board case. I had a Department of Insurance case when I worked at this other firm, and then I was let go right around the beginning of about February-ish of 2019, and I was planning on doing this area of law and opening my firm, and the timing just kind of hit right. And honestly, it was just one of those things, and I was like, well, I like this area of law. I've handled some of these cases. It kind of fits naturally with my personal philosophy and professional philosophy and my experience defending people. And it just kind of came together, to be honest with you. And, my wife kind of came up with a version of this logo, and I was thinking about the name. And I was like, well, let's see if anybody has this. And nobody had it. I was like, okay, that's a good idea. Let's go with that. So everything just kind of came together. It wasn't the best of circumstances at the time, because I think my kid was like less than 2 years old, my first kid. So I was like, what's going on? But it ended up working out. I mean, I've been able to grow the business since 2019, and now we're, you know, uh, in addition to myself, we've got three other attorneys that work for us, a couple paralegals, and a couple virtual assistants as well.
Yeah, a lot of the folks that have recently moved to North Carolina, they don't know North State, but for those of us who have
Right.
been around a while, yep, saw
Right.
that. It's like, "Oh, that's local. Okay, I like that." Uh, we're gonna get into your legal career down the road on the show here. But your first month as a licensed now, are you an attorney or a lawyer or both?
I It's the same to me. I
Okay.
guess I'll go with both.
Alright.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think attorney. I guess to some people sounds a little bit better than lawyer, but it doesn't matter to me. Yeah.
Your first week as a lawyer was like what?
Oh man, that one was when I was at the public defender's office, and we did nothing but represent people accused of felonies in South Mississippi. So the first week we had what are called preliminary hearings. In North Carolina, they're called probable cause determination hearings. So it's the first time after the person is arrested and kind of processed in the system to have an opportunity for them to, hear all the evidence against them in at a like little short hearing. So most of the time, we would just do it for like to get a bond reduction to get the person potentially out of custody. But every once in a while, we'd have to have a hearing. And I remember my first week; it was my first or second week, one of the two. One of the guys saw how young I looked and knew that I was a new attorney, and he's like, "I don't want him representing me." And I'm like, "Well, you don't really have a choice." Um, but so that was a kind of interesting, and a lot of the folks that we'd represented, they would have affiliations with certain organizations that were nefarious. So it was kind of intimidating, to be honest with you. Sitting down in the Harrison County Jail basement, talking with folks.
And I
Yeah,
could you could easily come back for a second show because I have like 1,000 questions just on that part of your life alone. But
yeah.
how much prep time did you get before you met your client in that situation?
Yeah, great question. Sometimes, and there really wasn't much to prep with because we would get, I think it was every Wednesday. So we would get their folder that morning,
Yeah.
and we would usually get a stack of them. It would be about anywhere from about 2 to 8, sometimes 10. And the folders, though, it was super thin because there wasn't much in there. It was like an initial report from law enforcement. We didn't have what they call full discovery packet or anything along those lines. Every once in a while, you get like, 6 or 7 pages or something like that. Most of the time, it was just a couple. Um, and I do remember one time I was there, I had about 8 cases, and I had never seen my client before. And there was everybody in my office. There's about 4 of us, 4 or 5 of us, and there's this one guy in there. He's got a shaved head, and he had a tattoo of an eagle on his forehead. And I'm thinking to myself, like, man, it's gonna suck for whoever ends up with that guy. He looks a little bit crazy. And so it's dwindling down. It's me and one of my coworkers, and I could see he had about 2 files left, and I had like 2 files left. And I'm like, okay. So he gets down to his last file and he calls the person's name, and it's not the guy that I'm thinking of that gets up. So the guy with the tattoo was still left, and I'm like, oh, that's my client. And it is honestly, he was one of my nicer clients. You really cannot judge a book by its cover. And what he was accused of doing was aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. But what had happened was he had found $50, and he was a transient. He
Mhm.
was, kind of like to move around and be, free. And he found $50. Well, the word got around to the others that were kind of in his community, and somebody came after him with a knife. Well, he was faster and had a better knife, and he got to them first. They survived, but they were in the hospital, and I was like, all right, we're going to be able to kind of get this resolved and get you out of here because it's clear self defense. And that person, I guarantee you, has already moved on to somewhere else. And I was right. And he was very nice. He was, hey, I understand. I appreciate you coming down here, giving me my discovery and things like that. And it worked out. It worked out fine. Hopefully, he stayed out of trouble since then. But it's one of those things. Like I said, like you can't really judge a book by its cover. And honestly, I'm reading everything and talking with him, and even the prosecutor, I think, understood he didn't do anything wrong. He was just defending himself. So,
Yeah. Yeah, those I'm sure there are a thousand other stories you could tell, and one day we'll get
mhm.
to some more of those. One of our assumptions as lawyers are you guys have as they say, mind like a steel trap because you have to remember so much stuff. So, are you pretty good going to the store with a verbal shopping list and things like that?
Oh, no, I'm not. My biggest thing is, even if I've reviewed a file, a number of times, I will still go back through it before calls with one of the things I was doing this morning. I'm gonna be, out, of the office later this week, but next week I've got, a meeting with the, medical board's investigator and my clients. So the other thing I was doing, I've reviewed the file, reviewed the notes, doing it again today, written everything out. So while I'm traveling, I'll be able to review it again, just to make sure I stay on top of everything. One of the people that work with me at the public defender's office, that's kind of my mentor, is like, look, go over your cases, know the facts
Mhm.
like the back of your hand. You got, I think when I left the PD's office, I had like 92 cases. So the fact patterns might have been similar, if not exactly the same, but you still got to go back over your cases and refresh your recollection as best as possible periodically, so like you are in that position to where you might not need the file, but you'll have it and you know where everything's at, and then you're good to go at that point. Yeah.
When you created North State Law, do you remember your first client?
Um, I remember some. I believe one of my first clients was a nurse, and I
Yeah.
remember sitting up at the nursing board for a settlement conference, and they made us go last, so we sat there like 4 hours, and it was kind of brutal, but yeah, so I vaguely remember that, and I also used to do when I started. I was doing some family law as well, and some other like kind of simple civil litigation, and then I got to the point where I had enough professional licensing clients where I stopped other stuff, a while back. But yeah, I vaguely remember my first client.
Do you remember how that nurse came to you?
I think she got to me through Google search.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
When North State law was official, how
Mhm.
did you get the word out to tell people that you guys were open for business?
I used to spend hours upon hours doing blog posts. I started doing some YouTube stuff about 2020-ish, but Google has still been our bread and butter. Um, I decided, I'm relying a little bit too much on Google, so I've gotten into a couple other things here and there. But I will say, I also, excuse me, frequently sponsor stuff with the North Carolina Nurses Association, and I love doing that. Like we represent nurses all the time. That's probably the board that we're in front of the most, and that's probably going to be one of those things where we're always going to represent nurses the most, more than any other board, most likely. And I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. I think nurses catch a bad rap
Mm.
sometimes with the board, and it's a little bit unfair. So, I always want to help those that are helping everybody else. And I know nurses help out people a ton.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with you on that. Do you still do some of those activities today to get the word out to get more clients?
Yeah, we do. All right, I do. Yeah, I still every single year the nursing association has a big event, and it's around September, and I sponsor that. I'm one of the sponsors for there. I've been getting more into speaking engagements. So on Friday last week, I spoke at Campbell University School of Pharmacy. Was able to speak there for a couple hours, and that was kind of fun. Be a guest lecturer there. So I'm getting more into doing stuff like that, which I enjoy. I enjoy that stuff a lot.
I was assuming you would get some good questions from a group like that.
Yeah, I think I only had one question and then a follow up. And the question was basically like, well, what do you really have to do to get suspended by that board? And I'm like, well, other than what we talked about, which is, dipping into the doing diversion or some things like that, which get you suspension pretty quick. But like sometimes the people don't comply with substance abuse agreements and things like that. That'll get you suspended. And the student had a um, pretty example that he gave me when he was working for somebody else. But yeah, that was pretty much the only question I
Mhm.
got.
Okay. What do you know as far as being a business owner? What do you know today that you wish you would have known on day one?
Oh, that's a great question. Man, a lot of things, honestly. I would probably say, oof, diversify marketing probably a little bit better and stay on top of that. And I would say within that, never let networking slide. I mean, networking is so huge because the best potential clients that I get are those that are referred to me from another professional. The closing rate on something like that is super high. I think it's over 80% in my firm. So when I get a referral from somebody that's another professional, like they're typically going to sign up with us because you
Mm.
get that automatic verification. I think that's probably one of the key things that anybody that's starting a business needs to understand is going out and networking with other professionals. It is such a low cost for you. And you get out of the office, you get to meet people, you get to have interesting conversations with folks, you get to know people more. And it's like having an extension of yourself out there marketing for you. Assuming the person is doing it the right way, which a lot of people do. I mean, I've only had a couple what we would call one-to-one meetings with people where I was like, wow, that's kind of a waste of my time. But I would say the overwhelming amount of one-on-ones I've had with people have been really great, especially within BNI. I have not had a bad one-to-one in BNI, not one. They've all been really good, and it might be a situation where we're not able to pass referrals back and forth. like a lot or at all. But you know what? I still enjoy learning about somebody's business, learning about them individually, and I'll still keep my eyes out and my ears open, just in case that somebody comes to me and they need whatever profession that that person in my group, might be able to offer. And I keep a running referral list as well. So
Yeah.
if my staff gets something and they know who to reach out to and send the referral. Yeah.
What got you or who got you to BNI that to help you end up in the chapter you're in?
So that was something that it's been on my radar since even when I was in Mississippi. So a friend of mine from law school, he didn't he was friends with some guys that were in BNIs, and that was the first time I ever heard about it. And this was probably 2009, 2010. And then when I moved up here and I started my firm, I had gone to a couple like BNIs as a guest. And then I was in some BNI spinoffs. So they were similar to BNIs, but not quite as structured. And, I was like, well, I think I need to get back into taking networking more seriously again because it had dropped off. Obviously my fault. Should have done a better job of it, but I realized like, all right, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right again. I'm going to join a BNI because, it wasn't like I just randomly selected one. I did my due diligence and I did my research and I had a list of about you know started with a longer list and then all right, well, location's important to me. What professions are in this group? When do they meet? Like, does all this stuff like match up for me? And I got it down to my group, and then there was another group up in North Raleigh, and I was like, well, let me go visit and see what this is about, and visited my group, and I was immediately like, that's my group. Yeah, everybody is very professional, but we have fun too.
Yes, you
And
do.
that yeah, we do. You know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Like, and I've been to some B&Is as a guest, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, guys, we can lighten this up a little bit. Um, and those are still valuable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like poo-pooing on that. But my group was more into my personality, and everybody, we have a good time, but everybody is there for business. They understand the importance of business, and they still understand the importance of having fun too, and
Yep.
keeping it as light as you could be,
They
given the
are.
parameters. So.
Yeah. Do you now when you first started networking to get clients, whether it's at North State Law
Mhm.
or before that, uh, what were your first couple of elevator pitches like, and how have they grown and advanced to where you are today?
So with my firm, our slogan is we safeguard your professional license so you can get back to business. So my elevator pitch that I had originally was just that. I'd say my name, the name of the firm, and then our slogan, and that was it. Then that kind of evolved to Nick Dowgul, North State Law. We safeguard your professional license so you can get back to business, represent anybody that has allegedly run afoul of a state agency or licensing board. And that was kind of my spiel for a while. And then when I, got into the BNI that I'm in, that has kind of transitioned to be more specific of like, well, who am I looking for? So I'll start off with, Nick Dogan, North State Law, where we safeguard your professional license so you can get back to business, and it might be, hey, I know there's somebody in this room that probably knows somebody that's on a trade association board, not the actual board, but the trade association. And if you know somebody with the trade association and you don't mind an introduction, I would love to meet that person. Something like that. And then that way people know, okay, well, he's looking for this type of person or a person associated with these type of people, things like that. There's a guy in our group, he's very, very specific. He's like, well, I want to, if anybody knows XYZ person, you know, I would love an introduction to him. And I would say it doesn't always work out that somebody would know that specific person, but it did the other week.
Mhm.
And I'm sure that was a great introduction for him, exactly who he's looking to speak with. And, that's fantastic, a way to do things as well.
And that's where we all fall short. And even when I got
Yeah.
into BNI, is we forgot to ask. We stood up there and bragged
Yeah.
and told. It's like, oh, you need to
Yeah.
ask for stuff. So glad you're doing that. Uh, so we spoke. You mentioned your wife earlier. Her name is
Mhm.
Brooke. So I always like asking my married guests, how did you and Brooke meet? And you both tell the story the same way.
I think we do. We met at Raleigh used to have, I don't know if they still do it anymore, but they used to have Thursday afternoon, Thursday night, they would have this band over in North Hills. They would have like a little,
Mm,
I guess they called it North Carolina shag band.
mm.
And they would have some food and some drinks, and they had the band playing. And we met some through some mutual friends at that. So yeah, been going
And
since
where
then.
was the official first date?
Durham Bulls game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Minor league baseball is a good call. And when did you know, oh, I think there's something here?
I probably within the first month.
There you go.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
think the first time I spilled something on her sofa and she didn't get like mad, I was like, okay, that's pretty good.
That is a good sign. I like that.
Yeah.
In 1999, you enrolled at Florida State University.
Yeah.
What was the plan?
Um, the plan at the time was, get a degree, and then I was planning on going to law school when I started. So that was kind of the plan, and the reason that I chose a language, or I chose a major in a language that I already spoke, which was English, was that should help me with law school, with legal research and writing, and it did to a certain extent.
You had fun on football Saturdays there, I assume?
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
Okay.
we did. I may have went to actually more baseball games
Oh,
because
yeah.
I could walk to both the football stadium and the baseball stadium, and there's just more baseball games.
You'll
So yeah,
the legendary coach, Martin?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, he was the man way back when. He just
yeah, he
you guys
was.
won and won and won and kept winning, so, uh, and then you moved on to you got your law degree from Mississippi College School of Law?
Yep, in Jackson, Mississippi.
And how did you end up there?
So I had applied to a number of places and I'd gotten into a couple different ones, one in Jacksonville, and then I got into law school, I think two of them in South Florida, and I might have gotten in one of them around Tampa area. I can't remember. And then I got into Mississippi College, and I visited the ones down in the South Florida area and just wasn't my cup of tea. And it's a bit of a hike where I'm from in the Panhandle.
Mm.
That's a long drive all the way down to South
Yes, it
Florida.
is.
It is a long drive. It's very hot down there. I mean, you would figure in one state, well, it can't be that much of a difference in heat and humidity, and it really is. So that kind of factored in as well. And it was much shorter drive over to Jackson, Mississippi
Mm.
than South Florida, and so it was part of the reason that I chose that. And it's honestly for a smaller school, they produce some really good attorneys out of there, and they've had some really excellent professors that I was lucky enough to learn from as well. So that was another thing that kind of factored in.
Do you get back there much at all?
I really don't know. I've only got a couple friends that still live in that area, and I don't really get a chance to go back.
Mm.
To be honest with you.
Another thing I enjoy doing, on the weekends before a show is I just get on the computer and see what I find. So, I need to ask you, what is Buana?
Well, oh, that's a beach assistant.
What is a beach assistant?
So when I was a kid, my oldest brother, worked renting like beach chairs and jet skis and things like that. So I would come and I would help him set up the mats and the umbrellas. So and
Okay,
they would always call it a Bawana. And there's actually I can't remember what Jimmy Buffett song, but he talks about Bawana as well. So
that makes sense.
yeah.
Do you remember what you were paid back then?
He would give me usually about 20 bucks every day.
How many hours would you work for that 20 bucks?
I probably was only actually doing work for about 2 hours because I'd have to get up really early, and I was a teenager,
Oh, yeah.
probably like 12, 13 years old, and I did not wanna get up that early. But I would get up, I'd get a ride, my mom would drop me off, I'd help them in the morning. She'd come and pick me up. I'd go get a nap, and then I'd be back in the afternoon to help them break everything down. So usually about 2 hours ish, somewhere around that. So $20 for that back then,
Yeah.
it wasn't bad.
You're one of the richer guys in town back then, weren't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. I like your Facebook page.
Thank you.
I'm a fan as well, but I think you need to tell people why you have a picture of the bandit
Oh
on your
yeah.
Facebook page.
Yeah, so Burt Reynolds went to Florida State,
Yep.
and I've always been a big Burt Reynolds fan. And that was I took that picture, I think it was at a restaurant randomly. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I put that on there. Yeah, and Burt played football for a little bit for FSU, and then he messed his knee up back in the day, where if you messed your knee up back
Yeah.
then, you were done. But I think I haven't seen all of his movies, but I've been probably the overwhelming majority of them.
It's one of those, I don't know how well you have kids, so everybody's always up early, but before you and Brooke had kids, I don't know if one of you was the early morning. I'm the early morning person. My wife's the night owl. So on weekends, I'll get up and, but a lot more times, usually before the sun comes up, and I'll just go clicking for movies. Man, when Smokey and the Bandit, when I see that, I'm in. I
Yeah.
don't care where in the movie it is. I'm in till it ends.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's incredibly quotable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
So
love the
yeah,
theme song and Jackie Gleason. Most of his
yeah,
stuff was improv, and it was spot on if you like Jackie
yeah,
Gleason.
yeah. It was. Yeah.
So back to business, a normal work week for you and your staff to get new clients. What kind of things do you
Yeah.
guys do?
So for me, we do. I'll go to our meetings on Thursday,
Mhm.
but I will have one-to-ones, typically at least one, maybe two a week, depending on the week. Also, we still do get most of our clients from Google and Google Ads. So we'll have calls coming in for that. I've got one of my staff members handles the consultations, which we call discovery calls. Um, and then the other thing that I will do is, getting more into the speaking engagements, and then also do YouTube videos. Been doing that since 2020, and I'm trying to grow the channel more and more. And it's kind of varying degrees of success sometimes because that algorithm is tricky, man. So those are the main things that we'll do. Um, yeah,
Right. Well, at the next one-to-one you and I have, let's talk about that because I'm trying to do the same thing and I
I
can't figure
got you.
anything out. So I know you got to work your butt off to do it, which I'm
Oh
happy to
yeah,
do, but I just need to know kind of what direction to do that.
yeah.
Um, Before you were a firm owner and you
Mhm.
were a lawyer and you had bosses and all those people who outranked you, what did you take from them that you now apply, all the good stuff you decided to keep and you now apply? What'd you learn?
Um, I probably learned the most on actually practicing law when I was at the public defender's office because we had a great group of attorneys that had been doing it for a while. And one of the things I was mentioned earlier is, one of the big things is knowing your case, knowing
Mhm.
the facts, going over the file. That was probably one of the biggest things. Um, and then the other stuff would be more of like kind of in during the during my career, just seeing stuff, even if it's from like either opposing counsel doing something positive or negative, I can kind of pick up on their experience and my interactions with them. One quick story is I was this was probably my first month working at public defender's office. We would have like a sheet. So we always had the most clients, and they would print us out a sheet, like staff at our office. So I would see who's got all the cases and when we're going to be called with our client. Well, the private attorney was sitting next to me and he's like grabbing my stuff, like grabbing my sheet, and I'm having to like grab it back with him. And I'm like, and after I got done, I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to be like that guy. And I had heard some stories about him, and he was just not nice with other attorneys, and he was actually really rude with clerks. And that was another thing that I had been told before, and then to see an example like that of what not to do. was really good. It's like, okay, yeah, don't be rude to clerks,
Mhm.
which makes sense. I mean,
Yes.
you shouldn't have to be told that, but if you're a newbie, you know, you just kind of have to, I don't know. It's nice to be told that, even though it's common sense to most people. Somebody looking out for you to say like, "Hey, man, don't be rude to clerks. You know, you're going to need them with something, and they do a good job. And you know what? They got to hear it from people all the time. So be as nice as you can to them, even if they happen to make a mistake, because we all do. Still be nice to them. So
Yeah, if you wanna learn things about people, go to lunch with them and watch how they treat wait staff and things
yeah,
like that, and
100%.
yeah, I'm with you on
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Alright, so we are now getting into the no overthinking round.
Okay.
Some quick answers, good questions. Would you prefer a good legal drama on TV or actually being in the courtroom?
Rather prefer to be in the courtroom.
Okay. Are there any shows that are legitimate if we watched them, you could go, "That's pretty close?"
Oh, honestly, I don't really watch any of the legal shows, honestly. So the last one that I probably watched a couple episodes of one was Boston Legal.
Mhm.
And that was a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
Because I like James Spader. But
Are you a fan of, A Few Good Men?
yes, I do like
For
that.
many
My
reasons.
cousin Vinny. Oh yeah, my cousin Vinny as well.
Oh, yeah, man. Talk about a
Yeah.
quotable movie.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah,
When Marissa Tomei is on the stand, that you just have to stop everything going on in the house just to
yeah,
watch that. It was that
yeah.
good, so something people assume about your business that is 100% wrong.
I would probably say small law firms get a stigma of not properly supervising their staff, and that could not be further from the truth.
Mm,
You know, we've been having weekly meetings since it was just me and one staff member, and then we've kind of morphed that into other staff meetings. But I mean, I know what's going on in my firm with my attorneys, and if anybody has a question, I'm more than willing and able to answer it. We do hands-on training to make sure everybody's, if there's a new attorney, they're shadowing other attorneys in the office, and they're not going to handle a case by themselves until we vet them and understand that they're comfortable and they know how to do it. So
cool.
I would think that's probably the biggest thing.
Right. If you could master one skill, what would it be?
Um, ooh, a good question. Like anything?
Yeah, anything.
Oh man, I wish I had the type of linguistical tongue for different languages. That would be kind
Ah,
of cool. That would be nice
nice.
to speak more than just English. Yeah.
If and when they make a movie about your life, who should play you?
Man, I don't know if they really would want to do that. It'd be definitely a loss of money. But anyways, uh, I don't know. I like Matt Damon a
Mhm.
good bit. I always liked growing up. I was a huge fan of Tom Hanks,
Yeah.
but I think he's a little bit too old
Just yeah.
at this point, at least. But yeah,
Is your email inbox at work organized or chaotic?
organized. Yeah.
Always has been?
Yeah. Everybody, new client comes on board. Everybody has a folder. And then if it's kind of, something else, like I have marketing folders, marketing subfolders, kind of things like that, an administrative folder. So yeah, it's pretty organized.
Were you an organized kid in junior high and high school as well?
Not so much in high school,
Yeah.
but definitely when I was growing up, pretty organized. I remember having one of the Madden football games, and I kept a logbook every time I drafted somebody as the Dolphins, so I can kind of keep up with their progress and their blah blah blah.
Nice.
Yeah,
It's funny if you talk to range of ages of people, how they know of John Madden,
yeah, yeah.
and they're like, wait, he was a coach? Yes, he
Yeah.
was. What is one word your team would use to describe you as a boss?
Um, I would say probably maybe approachable
Eh,
would be the best way. Yeah.
I like that. Right. Uh, is there a guilty pleasure you have that some people know about and most people don't know about?
Mm, uh, I don't know if it's really a secret, but I like bacon a lot
Ooh,
and
good
steak.
call.
Yeah, bacon and steak are my
Uh,
go-tos.
Duck
Yeah.
Donuts, bacon donut, maple bacon donut. Check that out.
Ooh, I have had that before.
Oh,
Very
out.
good.
We get
Yeah,
three. We buy a dozen donuts, and three of those are the maple bacon donuts. So
yeah, those
our
are good.
family is on board with you. We should have breakfast one morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
As a parent, when you're saying things to your kids, in your mind, are you hearing your mom talking or your dad talking?
A little bit of both
Okay.
sometimes. It depends on what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think.
I like that. Are you a
Yeah.
morning or an evening person?
Well, I kind of have to be a morning person at this point. Naturally, I'm not, but I kind of have to. It is what it
Yeah,
is.
man.
So, yeah. And I think like last night I was asleep by about 9:30,
Mhm.
if not before then.
You've
So, yeah.
you've got 3 alarms in your house, 1 phone, and 2 kids, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it's weird, like, the weekdays I gotta wake them up. The
Yeah,
weekends, not so
yeah.
much. And it's weird how that works out.
Uh, that most kids were that way. If we all asked our parents, to go, "Yeah, that was you too." So yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What did you want to be when you were growing up?
Doctor.
Nice. What kind?
Yeah. Uh, I wasn't really sure exactly. I think it was just gonna be maybe like I didn't really want to get into surgery because
Mm.
I didn't think that that was my cup of tea, and that's ultimately why I kind of was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that. So.
And what is the one thing you are most excited about for North State Law in 2026?
Um, I'm excited that we got a really good staff. I will say that. I am very excited about that. And I'm also still excited about growth opportunities, getting back into networking like I have been, kind of rededicating myself to try to figure out the YouTube algorithm. Those present really good opportunities. And then the other thing is, trying to get traction with being kind of a preferred provider, so to speak, for
Mhm.
insurance companies, which we're starting to get a little bit of traction on that. But I would say growth in particular would be another thing, in addition to excitement about my staff. But I would say growth as well. Just trying to grow again, take another step forward again, which would be very you know very helpful and very useful.
Nice. And for those of you watching who are going to start a business one day where you will hire people, that will be the best thing you do to determine if your business is going to be
Yeah,
successful. You may have
yeah,
the greatest product in the world, but if you have the wrong people doing it, not going to go well usually. So I'm glad
yeah,
you acknowledged that as well, Nick.
yeah.
All right, so we've been putting Nick's phone number up here. You can also go to northstatelawfirm.com. I tell I tell our listeners most every week some things you need to go to an expert for. Let's just say, without needing to say, the law is one of those. So reach out to them. I know they'll happily answer your question and chat with you. But if you have to think about if I need a lawyer of some sort, you probably do. And even if they can't help you, they will send you somewhere to a good place. So, Nick, I've enjoyed having you on the show, and I have a note to give you a call and let's do another one-to-one because I'd love to pick your brain on YouTube, see what you're learning, and I'll show you what I've learned and see if I can get past, the number of viewer or number of uh, likes and stuff like your subscribers that I have. So, yeah, hope you're
Yeah,
doing well
yeah,
on that.
yeah. Thanks, Mike, and I appreciate the invite. This was great, man. So,
Yep.
and looking forward to that one-on-one again.
Had fun, and we will see everybody next time on Capital to the Coast BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.